Things just took a shocking turn for the New York Rangers as a Rangers insider has revealed the next Chris Drury trade casualty, and who this player is, no one saw as the next move. We're also going to break down the perfect trade for the New York Rangers this offseason that will make this team a contender next season. I'm going to break down exactly why in this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 74% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with your New York Rangers, be sure to go down below, hit that free subscribe button, because this is the place to be for all your daily New York Rangers content. Now, earlier this morning, Brett made a video about possibly trading for, or offer sheeting, I should say, JJ Peterka. And there's a lot going on with the New York Rangers right now, and a lot of question marks because people are wondering why Chris Kreider was traded. And let me tell you, it wasn't to get worse. They have a plan in mind. Chris Drury does have a plan, and there's a lot of moving pieces right now. He wants to upgrade at the defense position, and he wants to upgrade at forward. And one thing that absolutely blew my mind, and it's a new report from Larry Brooks, and he said that Rangers forward Alexi Lafreniere has come up in several trade conversations this past week. Now, that alone is enough to be like, whoa, and, you know, raise an eyebrow at, because they just signed him to a very lucrative, for what he's produced at the NHL level, contract for the foreseeable future. So this is a little confusing in that way. You would think that they would want to hold on to this player and see what he can do under Mike Sullivan. And I think that if they do hold on to him, you know, then I think that, you know, he might actually have a breakout season under Mike Sullivan. He might actually have that season that we've been waiting for. But in this video, we're going to discuss the fact that he could be traded coming up here very soon. And not only did he say that he's come up in several trade conversations, right? Which, you know, I'm sure they're taking calls on everyone right now. He's trying to upgrade the team from top to bottom, and he still needs to work out the defense. But from Larry Brooks as well, yesterday, late last night, he said the expectation is that K'Andre Miller will be traded soon. We're going to do another video on K'Andre Miller specifically. And also no guarantee that Alexi Lafreniere is here for camp. So he could be, it's not that he's just being talked about or maybe included in some trade scenarios with some different teams. There's a real possibility that he's not on this team for training camp. He could be traded beforehand. Now, who are you going to get back in return? That's the biggest question, right? You have to start thinking about that, because it makes no sense to trade Alexi Lafreniere and some of the younger guys on this team for nothing. Now, you must be saying, Darius, they just traded Chris Kreider for nothing. I don't know if they traded Chris Kreider for nothing. They freed up a lot of salary cap space that now they can weaponize this offseason. And not only that, they got some, you know, a decent prospect in return that they can either use in their system, which I'm a little skeptical about. We know this team can't really develop prospects, or they can flip them in a trade and that draft pick that they got as well, even though they did move up a few spots in this year's draft. So I would assume that they're probably holding on to the pick, but you never know. You never know at this point in time, at least. But anyway, who can you get back in a trade? Well, there's somebody that I brought up a lot on the channel the last little while, and that is Marco Rossi from the Minnesota Wild. And from the Chris Johnson show, he doesn't think that Minnesota trades Marco Rossi for a pick. He thinks that they want a player back as the return. And Julian also mentions on the show that that's what he's also heard. So very interesting to me. What about a little, and I'm going to propose it here, a little Marco Rossi for Alexi Lafreniere swap? Now, you must be thinking, that seems a little crazy. I don't think it's crazy. This is a guy who's going to come in as your second line center. Marco Rossi, this is. He's a little bit smaller of a player, right? We understand that. But if you look at the cap hit that Lafreniere is, you know, walking into right now, $7.45 million for the next 7 seasons. And Marco Rossi, we can kind of get into it now in terms of what he is going to be making in his projections. This is from Scotia Stat Projections. He's projected to make $6 million. He could make upwards of $7 million on his next contract. That was the latest as well. The latest report that he could want $7 million. Would you rather want Alexi Lafreniere, who, you know, scored 45 points last season, had a very down year, and he's shown flashes of brilliance, or a guy who scored 60 points playing on the Minnesota Wild and played on their fourth line in the playoffs because they refused to develop this player and let him play? And he's kind of done and over playing for that organization. Not only that, he's only 23. He can play center, which the Rangers could use another young center to build for the future. And he's going to cost roughly the same. So with him costing roughly the same, you keep your $15 million of cap space. And it's a swap. You don't have to give up any other assets. You're giving them a player in Lafreniere that is similar, I guess, in a lot of ways to Marco Rossi. They want a player in return to get that trade done. And then you get Marco Rossi, who, again, I think can be a point-a-game player in this league, especially playing with some of the weapons that I think the Rangers are going to go after this offseason via trade and free agency. So I think that this trade actually could make a lot of sense for both parties. Now, there's some Habs fans out there that want Alexi Lafreniere on the Habs. That's all cool. There's a lot of trade rumors, a lot of fans out there saying that stuff, that they want him. But this is very interesting, and this is from Statboy Steven. If Alexi Lafreniere is traded, he doesn't expect it to be anytime soon. And when I say anytime soon, just before July 1st. It's not going to happen this month, basically. And the reason for that is because if you go through Puckpedia, he gets paid a signing bonus of $8 million on July 1st. And then after that, it's probably easier to trade him because the team acquiring him does not have to pay him that bonus of $8 million, which is absolutely absurd. So financially, it is far more appealing for teams to acquire him after the bonus was paid. Now, this is very interesting because if you take a look at the Wild situation here, this is an RFA. So he's gonna enter offer sheet territory around that time. So the other option, which I think is interesting, is the Rangers, with their cap space here, could offer sheet him, and we've heard that they would be open to doing some offer sheets, maybe JJ Peterka. So that's another interesting option. Maybe they keep Lafreniere and offer sheet Marco Rossi, which I think would be absolutely insane. But anyway, if you are going to do the swap, things get very interesting because he's an RFA. He's going to enter offer sheet territory around the same time that bonus needs to be paid to Lafreniere. So there's a lot of moving pieces. Drury has a very tough job this summer. I think that he has some big plans. We're going to do a video on Gavrikov as well. I feel like he wants Gavrikov. And again, like I said, Chris Drury, from the outside looking in, if you're not a Rangers fan, you're following all of this, right? As an outside fan, maybe you're watching this video. Rangers fans know this. Chris Drury is insane. He's an insane person who, when he fixates on one player and he wants that player, he will do everything in his power to get that player. That's exactly what happened with JT Miller. He said, actually, I want this player, and he went out and got that player. And he didn't give up like the whole farm or anything like that. He gave up some good pieces, of course, but JT Miller is a difference maker, right? So once he fixates on one player, and we've heard all these reports about Gavrikov and some other players, Jason Robertson, he's going to try his best to go get that player. So this could be another thing where he's looking at this like, I could upgrade at the center position with Marco Rossi. He's a guy who's, scored more points than Lafreniere last season. You're changing the DNA of the team a little bit where you're getting rid of, Chris Kreider's gone. Maybe Zibanejad's gone. It's not very likely, but it is a possibility. Let me know in the comments, would you do Lafreniere at this point for Marco Rossi? I would. I think Marco Rossi is a great player. I think he can be a point-a-game player in this league. He can play center. He's young still. We know that he can produce, and he was in a situation where he wasn't necessarily wanted, and he was still putting up 60 points. So very interesting to me. Let me know in the comments how you feel. The salaries would essentially cancel each other out once you sign Marco Rossi. So I'm not worried about that. And once they cancel each other out, like I mentioned before, you still got $15 million to work with here this offseason. Now, keep in mind, we're always talking about, making a big splash and all of that. I feel like they need to free up a little bit more salary cap space still because you still have to sign guys like Will Cooley, like Matt Rempe, which I'm not too worried about Rempe and some of the other guys like Edstrom, but I'm a little worried about Will Cooley. You got to get that done. So I feel like there's more moves coming very quickly here for the New York Rangers because they got to get this all done by the draft essentially to make sure that they're ready to go and Cooley is not going to get offer sheeted come July 1st. So let me know how you feel about all this in the comments. There's so much going on right now. We're going to have you covered with all New York Rangers content here on the channel heading into the draft and the next couple of weeks. So let us know how you feel in the comments. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.